And now we're recording. So welcome to Microsoft Teams chats and calls. So I want to be very clear on what we're covering today. The intro call really covered some of the basics of Microsoft Teams, the basic interface and how you move around inside of things. But I do want to cover a little bit about that today, just as a quick overview for those of you that haven't maybe had a chance to watch the material that we covered in the intro, or aren't familiar with Microsoft Teams at all. I don't want to leave you completely lost there. So we'll spend about 2 or 3 minutes covering the basics of how you move around inside the interface. I also want to touch briefly on the purpose of Microsoft Teams for Linear Tech, how we are implementing this and what the vision really is behind this product and why we're using it and what it's replacing and stuff. And then of course, we're going to talk about chats and calls. Now, calls are very similar to meetings. So there will be a little bit of overlap with the session that comes on October, I think it's 21st or 22nd. But there are some features that are coming that will be extraordinarily useful for you guys in certain aspects within meetings. So we're going to have a meeting that's dedicated to that, to hosting meetings with folks that are outside the college or inside the college, any sort of a mix you want, because Teams can do all those things just like WebEx can. But today we're going to focus primarily on calls, which are specifically inter-college, so interdepartmental calls, inter-office calls, things like that. It does not replace your telephone on your desk. This is not tied to our telephone system right now. We're hoping we'll be able to do that at some point in the future. So first things first, I'm going to share my screen and we will go over the basics of the interface for Microsoft Teams, again, at an extremely high level here. So inside Microsoft Teams, usually the first thing you see is going to be something like this. And there are we cover some different ways you can have this displayed to you. We're not going to go through those today. That's available in our intro course. But each team here is representative of typically one of 3 different kinds of categories. It's either a organizational grouping, so say you've got everybody that's at the Hall campus, or everybody that's full-time, or everybody that's within your department, the IT team, or we have a subset of the IT team department that can be organizationally identified, and that's where our system admins are. And so those groupings are organizationally based, and you can usually see those groupings on an org chart, or they're based on the type of employee you are, whether it's full-time, part-time. Lab assistants have their own groups. Each dean division has their own groups. Each program will have its own groups eventually, things of that nature. So that's one type. The other type is based around committee or groups that meet like committees. Things like the Native Banner team. All those are the users that are in Native Banner. The ad hoc website redesign committee, the graduation planning type committee, the cabinet, which is the VPs and the president, is basically a committee. And so that's what those groupings are. And then we have the other ones that are functional groupings, which may cross department lines just like committees do, but won't be defined the way a committee is defined because they don't necessarily meet together to do specific things, but they may work together on specific things like the live chat system that we have on our website that we use during new student orientation. And so that's in there. So now what is a team and what can it be used for? We talked about the 3 different ways that we currently identify teams. How is Linear Tech planning to use these? Well, we're planning to replace SharePoint with Microsoft Teams. Intranet, except for the reporting functions, is going to be all the files that are stored on Intranet are going to be moved into Microsoft Teams. We're also going to urge people, while we're not going to require it, we're going to urge people to move from Jabber, if you're familiar with that, into Microsoft Teams for chat and screen sharing and inter-office calls that you're not using your telephone for, that type of thing. We're going to try to pull all that over into Microsoft Teams as well. Each team also serves as a mailing list. So if you need to email the entire group, say you're part of the IT team and you need to email the entire IT team, there's a mailing list, ltcitteam@lineartech.edu. All team members at lineartech.edu. There is an LTC Hall campus at lineartech.edu. And so each of these teams actually does come with its own email list as well. So again, there are multiple functions within the team that you can use, and then there are tons of functions that can be added on top. We don't have time to cover all that today. So let's go inside a team and take a look at what some of the things that are there. We'll cover chat at the end. I'm going to skip the chat portion for the most part. Again, inside teams, you've got the team name, you've got the team channels over here, which we talk more about that in the intro. Most everything is probably going to take place within the general channel in most cases. And then you have tabs across the top of each channel. Now, if you don't pay attention to anything else in this entire presentation, pay attention to all team members, general channel, and go to the useful links tab. You'll probably start off on the main useful links tab, and it's going to look like this on this page. So if you click the little hamburger up here at the top, they call those 3 lines the hamburger. You can see that it will be structured as we go, and it probably won't contain useful links as a title up there long term. We'll probably make it something that's more representative of the college as a whole. I don't know. One part of me wants to say this is where we should stick the employee handbook. Of course, that's HR's, but we'll have to see. And then we can fit all these things, training links and everything within the employee handbook. I really don't know how it's going to end up, but we really want to structure everything nicely for you. So this is the one thing that I want you to pay attention to. If you hear nothing else, if you go into the team members, all team members team underneath the general channel, go to the useful links, you're going to see technology training. You can also get to it through the hamburger. There it is right there. It's just another section inside useful links. And you're going to see all of the training materials, even going back to March, that we have been developing for all the work from home stuff and all the new technologies that we've been launching, including Cisco email security, WebEx, Microsoft Teams. I have some OneDrive material that I haven't put in here yet. We're going to host some new training on OneDrive, so we probably won't host that old material here. But this is going to be your one-stop shop for technology training. And as we build out the material here, we're going to add things for Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office in general, tips on how to use Outlook, all kinds of things. And we're going to kind of put it all in here and give it to you in a nice presentation, as well as have live sessions on those things, of course. So that's very, very important. I want everybody to be aware of that. Other tabs, again, back to our general overview, is the Posts tab. And in here, we'll talk about this much more in depth in just a few minutes. This is where the chat goes. And of course, this is all team members, and so we don't want just all the random chats coming in here because that would disturb everybody at the college. So we disable that for everybody except for the owners, and we'll talk more about that, how to use the chat when we move on in just a moment. And then you have a Files tab, and this is in every single team that you're a member of. This will replace most of your shared drives, hopefully by the end of March. That's the goal. So that if you have a shared drive within your department, or maybe you and 5 other users had to have a shared drive for a committee, all that information can be here so that you don't have to have a map drive. You don't even have to have an LTC computer, really, as long as you can cross that 2-factor authentication threshold. Let's say you sit down at a colleague's computer, you're at a conference, your laptop dies. You can sit down at their computer as long as they're okay with it. Log into teams.microsoft.com. Use your 2-factor authentication. We'll send you the code on your phone, and be able to get into the file section and access all of your teams and all the files and all the shared information that's already there. And of course, as we roll out OneDrive, you'll have access to all of your documents as well through a secured, encrypted manner. The next big thing, and this is the last piece of the general overview probably that I'm really going to cover today, is the fact that we're separating out, just like I showed you a minute ago, the storage of information from the presentation of information. And as you guys know, let somebody else try to find something in your My Documents. Can they do it? I don't know. I like to think that I'm super organized, but nobody else, their brain doesn't work the same way as mine does. So my organized is chaos to somebody else, and vice versa. So right now, if you go to SharePoint and you try to go look for something, you might know that it's an IT document, or you might know that it's an HR document, but then you have to sift through all of maybe there's old versions, maybe there's different things that should be there. Maybe the naming scheme is not what you're used to, and you're not in that department, so you don't know what that naming scheme should be. So these are files that everybody should be able to see, but how do you find them when somebody else has organized them? And so what we decided we would do is use things like this useful links area here. So if you're looking for the standard IT equipment pricing and purchasing info, you'll be able to go directly to that. It is stored, if you really care, underneath files, underneath information technology, and underneath IT. No, I think it's actually underneath the technology standards. And then there's a spreadsheet with the prices, but that's 3 clicks, and even I didn't know exactly where it was. does. So that's where I think changing the storage, separating the storage from presentation of data is really important, and that should allow us to much easier allow you guys to find that data, especially if we can do it in something that's not personal, that's more of a web page type system that makes it easier for you to find things. So that's what will end the overall 365-degree view of Microsoft Teams. What I can tell you is that we are planning to push this pretty hard over the next 6 to 9 months and try to get as many people using this as possible. I think that most people will find they really, really like it once they get used to it. Once it becomes a program that just runs on your machine and you live in it half the day, you'll probably use this as much or more than you use email to communicate. Oh, there was one thing I should cover here. So let's say you join Linear Tech, the Linear Tech family as an employee, and you automatically get assigned to all these different teams. The great thing about that is you have access to historical data that people have not had access to before. We covered that in the intro as well, but all the emails that are sent to the mailing list for your team are available in the inbox for those folks. So if you are joining the IT team, you can scroll back through and you can see the emails that are sent to the IT team back to when it was first founded back on 9/25/2019. So you can see that they'll have access to tons of information. They'll have access to the chats that go all the way back, and you can see there's all kinds of fun things you can do with the chat in there, and we'll cover some of that in just a little bit. So it gives the new person historical perspective, should they choose to take advantage of it, that they have never had before, and lets them see, well, why do people think about things like that? If they care to search back through the chats that far, they can do that, and they can find those conversations, and they can read them, and they can see why decisions were made that were made, and be more a part of the team in a much faster manner than might otherwise be possible. So with our overview done, and we've talked about kind of the purpose and the driving reasons why we're adopting Microsoft Teams in such an aggressive manner, I also want to show you the chat, obviously. That's one of our main topics today. So it's really pretty simple. If you guys have ever used any sort of instant messenger, this falls along the same lines as that. If you're familiar with Twitter, or if you're familiar with, tagging folks in Facebook or any sort of other social media, this is very, very similar. Just a quick point, if you're inside of a team, the only folks that see the chats are the people in the team. They are permanently archived, just like your email is not permanent, 5-year archival. So it is there for 5 years, just like your emails are there for 5 years. So keep that in mind. This is official college communication. Even though we use it in a more informal format, it is actual college communication. So, don't say bad things about folks unless you want it to be read. Now, is anybody else going to come in and read that? No, probably not. It takes an act of from the president for us to go in and do anything like that. And I haven't had any of those actually happen since I've been here in 2 years. But just something to be aware of. So to actually start a new conversation, I just click the button, New Conversation. And then I can start typing in here and type whatever I want to type, whatever it might be. I can then use the @ symbol, and you're going to see that it's going to show me the folks that are in this group, and it's going to allow me to, I can start typing and it'll tag them. If I hit the enter key, you'll see how it changes to the name. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it looks like almost like a web link. It's turned blue. And so if I hit enter there, it's going to notify Chad that I have just tagged him in a message. If I don't notify him and I just hit enter on this message, it's going to be there. And people will see, you'll notice there'll be a little 1 if it's in a team. If it's in a separate chat, which we'll talk about in a minute, there'll be a little 1 up here for notifications that you've missed something. But it's not going to give you an alert because you weren't specifically tagged in it. The other cool thing you can do with tags is tag the entire team. So if I start to spell the team, hit enter, now it's going to send a notification to the entire team. So I don't have to deal with typing in every name and remembering who are all the adjuncts. I don't remember who they all are, and I type them all in, or who are all the the folks across my entire division if you're at a higher level. This makes it really easy to tag everyone that's in your team, and it's going to send them a notification, and we'll get into what those look like in just a minute. You'll notice across the bottom, you've got a lot of standard things that you'd expect in a modern system to be able to make it flexible and fun. You've got formatting your fonts. You can attach files here, though I honestly would probably, those are more conversation files. There's not permanent storage like the Files tab is. You've got emojis, so you can do all the crazy emoji thingies, and there's a ton of them. And then there's GIFs, which if y'all are familiar with those, get really crazy, but they can be fun. And little stickers. I don't know why they call these things different to me. It can be a GIF. It doesn't have to move, but so there's tons of little cutesy things that are in there. And then Stream, which is not something I've really bothered with, so we'll leave that one off for now. And then there's this thing called praise, which is very interesting. So you can actually send someone praise tag a person and send them praise for a specific thing. And then there's more apps. Remember how I said Teams was really extensible? So you can just toss tons of stuff into here if you really want to. Polly is a polling tool, so you can create on-the-fly polls here. So if you need to, what does everybody want for lunch? We're gonna buy lunch today for everybody. I know that's a rare occasion, but what does everybody want? Do you want bologna or do you want hot dogs? You can make a poll real quick and poll everybody to do that. Again, useful if you get your entire team of folks into Microsoft Teams and have them use it as one of their primary means of communication. IT does. It took a little while for everybody to really pick up on it and adopt it, but the basic commentary that I hear is that everybody likes it. So,
Anthony, can I ask you a question?
Please.
So when you say, like, you typed in at IT or at Chad Cathy or whatever, how is he notified? Is it just a little dot on the Teams app that says you've got a message? Or
let me show you guys here. So to do that, I'm going to actually use the chat that we have for this meeting. So let me explain that real quick, and then we'll actually show you the notifications. So you're going to notice when I go to chat, I've got an entirely different set of groupings here, right? So if I'm talking in the team, these are predefined groupings of folks. If I go to chat, I can create my own groupings. So this meeting right now is a chat. So if you guys have Teams open and you go to chat, you're going to see MS Teams chats and calls from 9:24 and 9:25. And then you're going to see there's the one from last night that we had. So you can use this as chat. So let's say I wanted to notify one of you guys. Let's see, I think Chips is a guest, so we may not be able to do him. Looks like Allison's on with the desktop thing. So if I just type that and I say, tag, you're it. So Allison, I don't know if you've got a mic that works, if you want to unmute and kind of describe for people what you saw.
I had my, sorry, I have a docs, so I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we certainly can.
Okay, yeah, it just kind of like dinged and it's all orange around it. I don't know how to describe it.
So can Allison, can you get back into, if you minimize my remote control session that you're seeing, or my remote session, can you get back into the chat, go into the chat area here and type something in for me?
In this area?
Yes. So
okay.
I'm going to move out. And if you would, Allison, do @ and then type in A Hardy and hit enter on me. So it should tag me.
Okay.
And then you can say anything you want to and hit enter. Okay. So you guys, if you can see that, I don't know if you heard it. My phone just went off, and we'll talk about the phone stuff in just a minute because you can put Teams on your phone. And if I hadn't been in the middle of a meeting, I would have had a little sound that popped up on my computer that let me know. And then you can see I've got, because I was tagged individually, I have a chat message and I have an activity link here too. Both of them are going to get me to the same stuff. I go here to chat. You can see it was bold. Once I read it, it turns unbold, and you can see the message here from Allison. And you can see it's got the @ symbol that shows me I was mentioned here, that I was tagged. And if I had clicked on activity, I would see basically the same thing. You can see where we were playing with that last night, where Mark was tagging me and things so we could show this off to folks. And that allows us to be able to see things like that. Oh, something I did not cover last night that I should have covered. This is a very nice thing here. So Is it not going to show up for me today? Okay, so this is if you guys have read receipt before an email, or if you have, you've heard the phrase leave them on red. Our system doesn't allow you to do that. So once you've seen a message in an individual chat like this, folks will know. Now, if you're in a group chat, you're going to notice when I show you this that there is nothing here that's going to let me see that. But if I'm in a one-on-one chat, say I'm talking here with David McMurray, if you'll see this little eyeball right there, it's going to say seen. And I'm going to say, David, don't look at this. He probably will just because I said don't. But now you can see it's got a check mark. When he looks at that message, it's going to change to this little eyeball that says that he's seen it. And so that is hard-coded. There it goes. Of course, he decided to look at it, and he's going to probably type something funny back to me right now. But that allows you to see that you can tell when someone, and he clicks away, yeah. You can see that he's seen that message. So that's a very handy thing to have. And then the other thing you can do is if you're in a chat here, if you put your mouse over top of any of the messages that are there, you have a reaction to the individual message. So if I want to do a thumbs up, like, yep, that's where I needed you to go, then you can see it's got a thumbs up. It's very much like Facebook or anything else. So you can do, likes, loves. It's just like Facebook with the different faces and things like that. So you can do that on those messages. And again, sometimes when somebody says something, you don't want to answer with words. You can just say, yep, gotcha, with a thumbs up. And that works just as well as typing anything else. Whichever one that you prefer is obviously quite fine. So with all that covered to this point, are there any questions? Very good then. So when you also get a notification, and we didn't get to see it because I was, I'm going to maximize that. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier for you guys to see because I was actually had some things covering it up. Normally when you get a notification, you should also see a little pop-up, especially if Teams is minimized. You should see a pop-up that pops up down here that'll allow you to click on it. It'll take you directly to the message that was that you were just tagged in, or that the group of folks that you're in was just tagged. And that way you'll be able to read that very quickly. Something to note when you are looking at, my brain went sideways, I apologize. I'll come back to that topic. I'll skip to the next. Right here, we have a set delivery options. So if you send a message to somebody on standard, if they don't answer within, I think it's like, if they don't look at it within, I think 10 minutes. So let's say they've never used Microsoft Teams before and you decide to send somebody a chat message in Teams. And we'll talk about sending a new chat message in just a second. They're going to get an email, and that email is going to say, you missed a message in Microsoft Teams. Click this link to get the message. They click that link, put in their email address and their password, and they're going to be able to see the message that you sent to them. So even if nobody has used Teams, they're going to still get a notification in their LTC email to say, hey, you missed something. Click this link to go find it. Now, whether or not they think that's phishing or not, hopefully they've been through the training and they'll know to expect that kind of stuff. Another option when you're sending the message is right here. So you can mark the message as important. And so if I say alert, well, let me get where I can type. So I can see it's marked as important. It even says the word important, and I can then read the message that was typed in. If I do this, I'm not going to do this to send to you guys, don't worry. If I mark it as urgent, it's going to notify the person. In other words, I'm going to get a pop-up, a sound on my computer, and an email every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. So in essence, you can basically bombard someone with, hey, I need your attention. Hey, I need help. I need this. But instead of having you continually having to type that, it's going to allow you to, yeah, it could be very annoying. So please, please think of etiquette and only use this when it's truly urgent. Maybe you and your supervisor have a code that you guys work out as a department that says, use that if I'm in a meeting and it really truly is something I need to break in on the meeting for. But Anthony, you're not answering your cell phone. You're not looking at your email because you're in a meeting. So I'm going to start sending this thing. And when you see this pop up on your phone and it keeps popping up, that means it's an emergency. The whole college is being attacked by cybersecurity guys or who knows what. Any number of reasons there could be to send an urgent message like that. but it's a great way to really get folks' attention in specific case where you need to. But again, I urge everyone to use their basic netiquette and only use it if there's some sort of a true emergency, and preferably if there's prearranged information about that. Aliens from outer space. There you go. They could be hacking into our systems as we speak, and they're landing in the quad. Who knows? So I say so a lot. My apologies. Other things that are here inside this chat. Well, let me back up a step. So we talked about teams, and you got posts, and this works in the same way. Again, you have new conversations down here, or you can reply to a specific conversation, and I can continue. It's basically threaded conversations if you're familiar with old school bulletin boards online, or if you use conversations set up in your email. You can basically continue a conversation there. Now, when you're in a group chat here, you can't do that. This is considered one conversation. So that's a difference between the group chat and here. If you want to create a new chat, maybe you just want to talk to one person, or maybe you need something, you need a team, but not really long term. And so the question comes up, do I ask IT for a team or not? If it's going to be permanent, long-standing for the organization, yes, you probably need a formalized team. If you're going to have documents that you need to store long-term, yes, you probably need a formalized team. If you just have a group of friends that wants to talk about a specific project, but it doesn't, you're not going to, once this project is over, nobody needs historical documents, you don't need to keep anything around, you're not going to pass along this information or turn this over to another group of folks, then feel free to basically create your own group. So to do that, or even to have an individual chat, you come up here to the top and click New Chat and put in the name of the person or persons, and then you have a way to continue doing that. Very, very simply, let's say, I think, who is someone I can test with off the top of my head that I haven't done a chat with yet? Oh, it doesn't matter. If you start that chat there, you start with that one-on-one chat. You can add folks to it. You can add them to it right up front, either way you want to. Let's say that this chat was a one-on-one chat that we're looking at right now, and I wanted to add additional folks to it. I can click the, looks like little people with a plus, and that's going to show me the ones that are in here. And then I can click Add Person, and I get the same basic thing. Now, this is very interesting here. You can't consider chats the same way you would a phone call. So if you're on the phone with somebody and you've had a conversation and you need to bring a third party in and you do a conference call, they're not going to hear what you said before. But in chat with this, you have to think about it. Do they need to see everything that has been said so far between me and person A, or is that going to be confusing, or maybe there are some sensitive things that were said there that don't need to be exposed to another person? So I can actually say don't include chat history, or if maybe those sensitive things were said days ago, I could say include history from only the past one day. Excuse me. Or I can include all chat history, whichever one suits your purpose. Now, typically, I'm not going to bring somebody into a chat where I have to use either of these options. I'm going to start a brand new chat, and let's say I'm having a chat individually with person A, I'm going to, if I need person A and person B to have a discussion, I'm going to click New Chat, and I'm going to add person A and person B by clicking that, and I'm going to add person A and person B right there. That's what I'm going to do personally. I'm not going to mix my chats up, but there may be situations in which you want to. That's strictly your choice. But just keep in mind, like we talked about, you join the team, you get to see the history. If you join a chat, you're also getting to see the history. As part of a group chat or even an individual chat, I'll look at the one here with David. You're going to see that David has sent me files, and here's a listing of the files that he sent. And if I had sent him files, they would be here. You can use email to send those files. A lot of times you run into, some attachment issues. You can try to share the files with someone on OneDrive or share them on other services. This is so much easier because if I need to send David a file, I just click attach, and I can go OneDrive or upload from my computer, and I literally am looking at a copy of all the different options that I have. There's my documents folder from my computer. I click on that, and I go through and I find whatever document I need to send to him, and I click the share button, and it goes. And it's there for him. It's going to show up right here in his chat, and it's also going to be available historically in the files area, because you can see this goes back quite a ways on files that he's sent. If you're doing a one-on-one chat, you're also going to see organization. And so you can see it actually is an organizational chart of how everything is laid out and who the direct reports are and where that person is inside the organizational chart. You'll notice in our group chat, we don't have that. That's only available in a one-on-one chat. The other thing in a one-on-one chat that you have is activity. So this is going to show you shared things that are here across all different teams, as you can see. A lot of these are from the LTC IT team. Some of these are from the sysadmin teams. So you can see multiple teams that are here, and you can see all the different chats that are had. This is outgoing, incoming, things like that. So you can see that information here. Sometimes it's very handy to have. I'm going to go back to our group chat here. In a group chat, you have some additional tools. We've got files. So if you share a file here using the share button, or if you attach the file down here using the attach, it'll show up here in the chat and over in files. So again, you don't have to have a full-fledged team unless that's something you want to turn over to other folks later on. If you want that to be an organizational team versus an ad hoc team that you just created on the fly. Ad hoc here with this guy, one of the other differences, this group chat does not get the options for mailing lists or anything like that. There's none of those organizationally structured things that happen. So this is just kind of an ad hoc thing. But you do get an area to be able to keep meeting notes, so somebody can take meeting notes. You do have a whiteboard function that's built into this. You can also do that through a one-to-one or a team. And so you've got your whiteboard function, which we're not really going to go into in depth here. That's more of an advanced kind of thing. But really, it's so easy, you guys don't even need me to explain too much about that. And you'll also get the ability to have meetings within your group chat. You're going to notice this tells me there is a meeting underway. It also tells me that it's recording, and you're going to see the folks that are in the meeting. And then you're going to see the join button. So I'm already in it, so I can't join it now. But if you pop into a group chat, oh, there's a meeting going on, you can hit join and you'll have that ability to join it. If you do not have a meeting that's currently going on, but you need to have a meeting, you can create, you can actually click join and it'll start a meeting there as well. If you have an individual, this is where calls comes in. So really and truly, it's using the same thing. It's like having a meeting with one other person. So if I wanted to call David, I can click video call or audio call. And this, the one really important point here, this is not tied to our phone system. Not at this time. There's not a supported way for us to do that yet. It should be coming out in the next year or so, I'm hoping, fingers crossed. And we'll be able to have this be an actual phone client. So you'll be able to answer your desktop phone through Microsoft Teams and leave people voicemails through Microsoft Teams that are also on the phone system. So it all functions as one system. But right now, the Microsoft Team calls piece is technically separate from our main phone system. But it's very simple, and I can't click it right now because it would kick me out of our meeting. But I could just click video call, and it's going to call David. And have my video sent, I could always turn it off. Have his video automatically sent, he can always turn it off. Or audio call, in which case I'm saying I don't want any video. Maybe I'm in a low bandwidth situation. I don't have great signal. I'm out somewhere, my internet's bad, but I still need to talk to him. And so I can use audio call. I also have the ability to screen share, just like in Jabber. So I can share my screen, you can do remote control, et cetera, et cetera. And those work really nice. And we're not going to cover all of the advanced stuff there. We honestly don't have enough time today. We will have some advanced things over in the spring, or you guys can play around with it, obviously, yourself. Here's where I was talking about adding people again, just like in our group chat. If I wanted to add someone, I could enter their name here, and I could bring that person into here, and I'd have the option to let them see all the history of the chat, or only a certain number of days, or no history at all. This little button right here, pop out chat, is extraordinarily useful, because most of the time when I'm chatting with someone, I'm going to need to reference a file somewhere. So maybe I need to go over into what we call our documentation standards and procedures for IT. And so I need to go over here into this files area. Oh, looks like someone else decided to start sharing there. When we cover meetings, we'll cover how not to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen again. So again, if I'm talking to someone, a lot of times I'm going to need to be looking at files somewhere in one of the teams. And it gets really annoying to go back and forth between teams and go back to the files chat and then come back here to the chat. So what I can do is I can pop this out. And so now I can go over here, teams, and I can go into wherever I need to go. And I can say, oh yeah, David, that's a section 102 in the after action report, and the template's in there. And I can tell him where that template is, or I can grab a link, copy a link. We'll cover all this when we do files, and I could paste that in, and I can send him a direct link to the document that he needs to take a look at, or anything like that. So that's a really handy thing to have. One of the things to note, the first time I saw this, when I clicked the X, I thought, oh, I'm going to mess something up. It's going to delete everything, but it doesn't. It just literally closes the pop-up window. If I go back to chat, you'll see it's all still there. So it doesn't actually hurt anything or mess anything up. I'm going to pause for just a second and let's see if you guys have any questions. Y'all are a quiet group. All right, no questions. We'll keep moving forward then. You're going to notice another hamburger up here in the top right corner. That's just going to give you some basic information about the meeting and how it was booked. You're going to see the join link. We can get telephone numbers associated with WebEx, with meetings, just like in WebEx. So if somebody has some sort of an issue with their mic or something like that, we can provide them with telephone numbers to be able to dial in. We'll cover all that when we get over into the meetings section of the training over in late October. I didn't cover filters. So when you're in your chat, let's take a look and see what we can filter. When I click the filter, I can simply type a portion of it. So if I wanted to see everything that was titled Microsoft Teams, I can see that, and I can see all of those different chat sessions that I have. Okay, Steve, I will try to slow it down just a little bit. Let me know if it gets too far behind. Thank you for letting me know. So I can type in Microsoft Teams there after clicking the little filter icon that was there, and you guys can see, I can see the titles of those. If I don't want to filter by name, I have this little 3 ellipses here, and I can filter by ones that have unread messages, ones that are meetings, or ones that are muted, which I don't have very many of those. And if you look at the chats here, let's say I'm getting tons of things, I can actually mute that entire chat. Let's say there's a group chat, and they're talking about what to have for lunch. I've already told them what I want, and I don't care to hear any more about that. I'm tired of getting the little one that pops up here all the time constantly, so I can mute that chat. I could hide that chat. I can also pin that chat so it stays at the top, which is a very handy feature if there's certain group chats that you like. So let's talk about one more feature of the group chats that is, to me, this is one of the things that really sets it apart from a lot of other instant messaging tools. So down here, this is a chat that I've got. The people that are involved in this are David McMurray and Marsha Black. They're both IT folks. And if I want to, when I click into here, I can click this edit and give a name to the chat. And I named it Cool Kids Club last night. So if I wanted to find another one, let me see if I can scroll down and find another one that has some stuff in there. So here's a meeting area right here. This one, oh, that one's not mine. I didn't create that group, so I can't change the name. You do have to have created the group to be able to change the name, I believe. So I can click in here. I can click the little edit button, and I can type in the name, and I'll just call this test. And you'll be able to see it changes the name of the group to test, which can make it easier to filter, to find things, that kind of stuff. It can be really kind of a handy dandy way to be able to do things. This is going to show me all the chats. If I use the drop down, I can go to favorites. So if I add some folks in here, I can add a contact to my favorites group. So if I'm going to do that, I could add it here. To me, I never use that because everybody I need to talk to is in here. You'll notice this only goes back so far, but if I use the search, I can find it going back quite a lot further. So I looked for the word successful last night. We talk more about the search feature in the intro, and I'll talk more about it in one of the more advanced classes, but by default, it searches inside messages. Everywhere I've got the word successful, so I can easily search for that. I've got tons more filters within dates. I can limit it to specific teams, and I can even limit it to specific channels within that teams. If I know the discussion probably happened there, I can see if I mentioned somebody sent me an attachment or what the subject of the whole thing might be. You can look whether it's a chat or a channel. Remember, the channels happen within the team. So if I know it happened within a team, it wasn't a chat, but I don't know which channel it was, or even which team it was, I can simply search within the channels and it'll look there. Or if I know it was a chat and not a team chat, I can use a regular chat, which is everything that's underneath here. By default, I can search for who the message is from. So if I know it's from somebody with the word successful, I can easily filter there either. It's just really nice and robust. And honestly, I really like that. In our general overview, in our intro, we do talk about files as well. And you're going to notice, just to touch on that point, that this also searches inside files and inside PDFs, Word documents, Excel documents, and inside PDFs, etc. for the word successful that we typed in here. That search for files is not too bad. But if you don't filter it by team, it can get really crazy, because you think about it, underneath teams, remember how we said these are our groupings for everything. The all team members team, stuff that goes underneath the team should be viewable by everybody in the team. Not necessarily editable, but at least viewable by everybody. And as you guys can guess, institutional effectiveness has a lot of information and documentation that they upload. So when I go to search, if I don't filter out all team members and just look within a specific team, I'm going to have a very difficult time finding files. So I can use the filter and I can say only select for the stuff that's within the IT team. And I'm only going to look for PDFs, and there's nothing like that. So again, the filters are pretty straightforward and easy to use. I think you guys will, once you learn to use those filters, the search gets really powerful inside Microsoft Teams, both for your messages and for files. We're not covering meetings today, just as a reminder, but if you're in your team, you do have a little meet button up at the top. That's the easiest way to start a video meeting, like we're doing right now. It's really handy. So just keep that in mind as you move forward. Inside the call, this is going to be very similar across the board to pretty much everything that you guys are used to in WebEx and Microsoft Teams. Is now that all these different providers are really changing their interface to use the same layout or a very similar layout. If you guys, I don't know how many of you have the most updated version of Microsoft Teams, but in the older version of Teams and the older version of WebEx, when I say older, I mean 2 weeks ago. These things are changing like non-stop. It's kind of crazy. But in the older version, everything was down here in the bottom in the middle. So you had your microphone, you had your camera, you had your raise your hand, you had all your options that are there. All that stuff was down here. That's not the case anymore. WebEx has moved everything up top in its latest version. Microsoft Teams has moved everything up top. I believe Zoom is following suit there. I don't know about Blackboard Collaborate. We don't handle Collaborate. But I imagine that if they're doing the same kind of development that everybody else is, they're all kind of going down one single path for how their interfaces are going to look. And it honestly is making things easier on the end user, because if you move between software, because, oh, Anthony's handled this meeting in Teams. Why can't he do it in WebEx like everybody else does? It becomes easier because they're starting to put buttons in similar places because it makes sense. So hopefully once you learn where things are, I'm hoping they don't change it a whole lot more over the next while. They're starting to seem to be getting things in places that make more sense. A little plus, a little add-on that we'll cover today is underneath your more actions inside Microsoft Teams. You have background effects here, and I don't know if you guys can see me very well. I want to show you where all this stuff is, so I don't know if you can see me, but if you click on the beach and click on apply and turn on video, well, you can't see me right now, but you can see the beach at least. And for some reason, like I said, my camera is not working. Or you can pick another one. There's a lot of different ones. Some of them are obviously made for the kiddos. You got some video game things here, so it can be kind of fun. And the other thing that's cool is you can blur your background, which of course is not going to work for me, but normally what it would do is it's going to kind of blur out everything behind me. And so, you know, you don't have to worry about somebody seeing the painting on the wall in your house, which is really nice. They won't be able to see the details. They might be able to see there's a frame on the wall, but they probably won't see the details of that. The other cool thing is you've got this option for adding new that's up here. So you can add your own pictures. There we go. I see Beth just set looks like probably the Golden Gate as her background. Even though her video is turned off, you can still see that she's got that background up there. But you can add your own pictures. So everybody gets really creative with this when they first try it. I think I've got something down here. If you guys can see that, it looks like stormtroopers down either side. So, you know, again, you can have a whole lot of fun with those backgrounds. Now, the other thing that it's got, we'll talk more about this in meetings, a lot more about this in meetings, but it does have live captions. So when you turn it on, it usually takes it a moment. And it is doing live closed captioning. Obviously, I need to slow my speech down a little bit. I know I talk too fast, my apologies. But even with my decent pace of speaking, it keeps up fairly well. And that is done on the end user end. You guys are seeing this because it is my screen is shared. But if I unshare my screen, or if I'm showing you a presentation or something like that, somebody's going to need to do that on their own visualization setup. So you guys would turn it on for your computers. Yes, it is a great thing, Allison. Absolutely. Now, it does also slow things down a little bit. So as I move around between windows and things like that, the type of computer I have becomes more important if I'm going to be doing a lot while it is trying to interpret those closed captions. And I'll be honest with you guys, this works pretty well. I was really shocked at how well it actually interpreted all the speech as we've tested this out in-house in the department here. Much better than the YouTube closed caption, auto closed captioning. So I'm going to turn that off. And the last little fancy thing I'm going to show you guys is something that, while we don't have to, if anybody else has a camera and they don't mind turning it on for just a couple of minutes. Thank you, Chip. All right, so hopefully we've got 2 or 3 cameras on here. I wish mine was working. There is this neat feature, and again, this is just like the closed captioning. Maybe you as an instructor would want to turn this on because it's more natural for you to speak to people this way. Speaking to the Brady Bunch is a little difficult to me. You know, you're constantly trying to make eye contact when the camera's actually where you have to look for eye contact, and it can just be a little bit unnerving to see all these different squares on the screen. If you turn on together mode, now there's a special checkbox you have to even see this once you have the desktop version installed. You have to turn on together mode to get this. This is pretty cool. We lost one camera. There we go. So you can see, if you lean back, you go out of frame. It's pulling your background out. So what it does, it puts everybody in a seat. Now, this is obviously a preview. This is a beta. And if you could see me, if I was sitting next to Steve or something like that, I could actually reach over and my hand would disappear behind him as I reached into what looks like I'm reaching into his body or something like that. It's kind of crazy looking. But as an instructor, this can hold up to 49 people, 7x7 on the screen. And it keeps you from seeing all those other distracting things that might be going on in their backgrounds or things like that. And as they continue to improve this and make this better, I really like this view. I'm hoping they'll give us the options for some darker wood paneling, but I'm sure there's reasons they picked what they picked. And Steve is going in and out. He's like a Force ghost in Star Wars and just disappears. But it's a neat thing. Your students can turn that on themselves if they want, but if you turn it on, it does not affect what everyone else sees. Just be sure you keep that in mind. That's only what you see unless you happen to be doing like I am and you're sharing your actual meeting screen. Yes, thank you, Allison. Actually, I was wrapping up, so we're closing right up on our hour. I'm going to turn off together mode and ask you guys if y'all have any questions. Okie doke. So remember, you will see, if you look at your chat there, you're going to see the group chat that we have for this meeting, and you're going to be able to see, let me look at last night so I can show you exactly where. See, the recording is going to show up at probably one of the very last things in that chat, and you can watch that recording from there. Or, of course, you can go online into Microsoft Teams, into the all team members, and go into the useful links post, and you can find all the technology training there, and I'll be posting our recording up there probably on Monday. And so on that note, I'm going to stop our recording.